Hello, Barendipitous here, and today we're going to talk about the lore of the brand new Priya. Sorry. All right. Anyway, let's just get right into this, shall we? So, thank you very much to the devs for giving me the opportunity to look over the lore here, and yeah, I have some thoughts. So let me show you what's going on. In the game itself. So here is Priya's lore, as you can see it in the game. Of course, meet the legends, and then you click on the lore tab there. I know the text is going to be hard to read, but I'm going to read over it in full, and then I'm going to explain what my thoughts are about what's going on. So here we go. Priya, the Radiant Blade. I was so sure my end was near, but she just tied us all up with her dupatta and said, "Better luck next time." It really makes me want to try harder. 32nd Lieutenant of the Sky Serpent Battalion. Mistake not my kindness for weakness. Come, I will show you just how compassionate my blades can be. Priya to Dusk. As the story goes. For generations, the women of Sonali tended to the Millennium Lotus, waiting for the day its blossom would signal peace throughout the land. When gloom raiders wielding stolen instruments of the gods came and set flame to their homes and flowers, Priya Kapadia stood firm and battled as fiercely as a trained warrior. Though the fires raged beyond her control, her bravery saved countless, and the gods saw fit to let her keep a set of divine weapons she had taken as a spoil of war, the sun-dusted chakram. Priya set off determined to grow stronger for her mothers and sisters. She challenged the ancient seven-faced fire monitor, earning the respect of at least 5 of the faces once their fight had finished. Immersing herself in the festival of Sat Din, Priya learned to channel joy through dance and harmony through combat. In the final day of celebration, records tell of how Priya had defeated an attacking army of 500 strong without drawing a single drop of blood. When asked about how she did it so quickly, Priya laughed and said she simply didn't want to miss the last song. Armed with silk and sword, Priya became a symbol of strength and benevolence. Many followed in her footsteps, taking up the art of blade and dance to defend the meek. Years later, somewhere far away in a scorched and barren pond, a lotus blossomed. Priya's battles in Brawlhalla are a spectacular sight, and seats sell out quickly. When she's not in the tournament, she leads the planning committee with Yumiko for the annual Nine Realm Kite Festival. She hopes Lord Vrax will eventually participate, and that maybe it will help him chill out a little. So the lore, delightful as always. I'll explain my thoughts and my understandings of the various references in here. So starting from the top, so Sky Serpent Battalion. There's a quote from the 32nd Lieutenant of the Sky Serpent Battalion. I have a bit of a theory, maybe a slightly far-fetched theory about what the Sky Serpent Battalion is, and I'll explain that in a little bit later. Priya talking to Dusk. That's interesting. There's nothing else in the lore, or even in Dusk's lore, that would indicate to me that there would be necessarily any kind of connection there. But it's also not totally out of the question that sometimes seemingly like random legends talk to each other. If you look at Rayman's lore, for example, Asuri and Jala here are talking about have you seen the new guy? Things are getting weird, and then Jala's like, "You're an actual cat," and Asuri's like, "Yeah, that's fair." So I don't think there's too much to read into the fact that Priya and Dusk were having a conversation, but I can imagine that Dusk was kind of like, maybe scoffing at how, Priya is clearly like Priya's actions and her lore tell me that she very much stands for benevolence and kindness, maybe leaning towards pacifism as well. Not drawing blood from that army of 500. And I imagine for someone like Dusk, who, is around like a hardened elf criminal, I can imagine Dusk is kind of the kind of person that would see kindness as weakness. But then Priya kind of like retorts back saying, I'll show you just how compassionate my blades can be. So Priya is cool. I think some might call her bad A. which to be I guess all legends could be called that. Anyway, so the first paragraph mentions the women of Sonali and the Millennium Lotus. So obviously, Priya is very much inspired, as far as I can tell, very much inspired by the culture of India or the region around there. When I looked up Sonali, I couldn't really see anything about like. Basically, the only like real references I could find from a general search are the fact that Sonali refers to like a golden land or something, which I think I think India was called that. It was called a golden land or something like that before the British came in. Maybe it's referring to that, like India from like several centuries ago. Sonali could also maybe refer to some sort of extra, like I don't know if some kind of like afterlife or some kind of like divine realm connected to Indian culture or Hinduism or things like that. But regardless, I think it's really cool that we're told about this Millennium Lotus and how the women of Sonali are waiting for the day the Millennium Lotus to blossom, and that blossoming would signal peace throughout the land. And then at the end of the second paragraph, at the end of the third paragraph, after it said that Priya became a symbol of strength and benevolence, and many were inspired to take up blade and dance to defend the meek. Years later, after this continued, somewhere far away in a scorched and barren pond, a lotus bloomed. And I think that's really cool. I think that goes rather hard, actually. Priya may not have been the one who directly caused the Millennium Lotus to bloom, but she inspired other people to, basically fight for peace and fight for those who can't fight for themselves. So she became like this symbol, this figure of those ideals, and I think that's really cool. There are a couple other legends that definitely stand for justice and like defending or righting wrongs and things like that. Sentinel and Cassidy especially come to mind, as well as members of the Order of the Exalted Lion, and I think it's cool that Priya did that in her own way as well. The second paragraph has several. By the way, the first paragraph, the end of it talks about sun-dusted chakram. I believe the chakram is called sun dust or whatever. So the chakram that she's wielding, that's a set of divine weapons. Which when Blue Mammoth Games showed a teaser image of Olgrim holding that chakram, I did get a sense of of the divine or something like that in the way it's designed, which made me think of Elysium, where Zariel is from. But yeah, so it makes a lot of sense that these are divine weapons. It's kind of like this like white and gold sort of with some like wing motifs and stuff. Anyway, I just think that's cool. So yeah, second paragraph. So I was confused at first about this ancient 7-faced fire monitor that Priya fought. At first, I thought monitor might have been a typo, but then I later learned that monitor is actually a word that's used to describe certain kinds of large lizards. I think there's something called like an Asia monitor or something like that. When I saw a picture of it, it reminded me of a Komodo dragon, so something kind of like that. So, an ancient 7-faced fire lizard, dragon, something, and five of the 7 faces. Priya earned the respect of 5 of those 7 faces, which I think is kind of funny. Kind of reminds me of that meme of that 3-headed dragon where 2 of them are serious and one is like silly. So I can imagine if you wanted to extend that meme, 5 faces are like we respect Priya, and the other 2 are like nah. Anyway, then it talks about the festival of Sat Din. So I'm just gonna say right now that even though I feel like I'm pretty good at like basic research and trying to find and trying to glean information from several different sources on the internet. Hinduism is definitely one of several very weak points that I have in my general knowledge. There are lots of things about especially the farther away you go from Western culture, the harder it is for me to wrap my head around around cultures and religion and things like that. Obviously, not that I can't wrap my head around it. It's just that I need to kind of read more to kind of understand what's going, fully understand and appreciate it. So I'm sorry that I am not I'm sorry. This is kind of getting into like a weak spot in my knowledge, and I have been trying to like you know sort of fortify that weak spot a little bit. Festival of Sat Din is an example of this. So, by my understanding, Sat Din, so Saat and then Din, in Hindi that phrase means 7 days. So, Festival of 7 days, and I am aware that in Hinduism there is a festival called Navaratri, if that's how you pronounce it, which is a 9-night festival. Um, in Hinduism. Navaratri means 9 nights in Sanskrit. Um, so yeah, there's a Wikipedia page about it. I also found a description, like an article talking about Navaratri in on the University of Southern California's website. Here's what it says about that. Navratri, meaning 9 nights, is a Hindu festival that focuses on worshipping the goddess Durga, but it's mainly about the triumph of good over evil. According to Hindu mythology, the goddess vanquishes a demon who is terrorizing the people in Vijayadashmi. Gosh, I'm so sorry. And thus the festival celebrates the victory over that demon. And then it kind of talks about saying prayers over, in back in the day, they would say prayers over like weapons and stuff. But nowadays it's more about like expressing gratitude and praying over like the instruments and implements of your daily or working life, like car, or laptop, or tools of the trade, or whatever. I did pick up on this though. The most iconic symbol of Navaratri is dancing. You will see colorful dresses and dancing at any Navaratri celebration. Attendees perform both Garba and Dandiya, and it is a fun way to celebrate, get some exercise, and spends time with friends, and so forth. So I'm guessing, like, again, I don't think the Festival of Sat Din and the Festival of Navaratri are exactly the same, but it sounds like Festival of Sat Din is inspired by Navaratri, especially with the idea of multiple days instead of nights, and also the fact that there's dancing involved. And also, I think I saw somewhere that the number 7 was something that kept coming up in Hinduism, which, to be fair, the number 7 comes up a lot in many cultures and religions and so forth, right? So, anyway, that's what I know about that. Immersing herself in the festival of Sat Din, Priya learned to channel joy through dance and harmony through combat. And then the final day of the celebration is when the army of 500 arrived, and she defeated them without drawing a single drop of blood. I'm guessing that army was the Sky Serpent Battalion, perhaps, because in that quote it says that she just tied us all up with her dupatta and said, "Better luck next time." When I looked up what a dupatta was, it seemed like it was a scarf that is often worn by women in India or like the Indian subcontinent, essentially. So there's that. Some kind of like silk or fabric like scarf that Priya definitely would have. Maybe that's the thing that she has on her head as well. You can see that piece of red fabric in the back of kind of towards the back of her head there. Anyway, armed with silk and sword, Priya became a symbol of strength and benevolence. Many were inspired by her, and then years later, somewhere far away, a lotus bloomed, which is cool. And now, finally, the final paragraph. It's always the final paragraph in any Legends lore is usually my favorite, because that's pretty much always the paragraph that talks about what's the legend doing now that they're in Brawlhalla. That's like, now that they're in Brawlhalla, they do this. And so I think it's really, really adorable and awesome that Priya works with Yumiko on a annual 9-realm kite festival. So now, in the lore, there's a Valhallan Ladies Book Club headed by Scarlet. There is a Asgardian Halloween Spooktacular Choir, which Magyar fills out the baritone section. There is an annual 9-realm kite festival. Thea has started her own brand and like sports brand essentially. All kinds of awesome stuff is happening, and I love it. And I also think it's hilarious that it mentions that Priya hopes that Lord Vorax will eventually participate in that kite festival, and maybe it will help him chill out a little. Because I definitely imagine that Vorax is like very intense and like, he's very tyrannical. Like, I'm going to rule Asgard one day, and all that kind of stuff. But if you're flying a kite, maybe it'll chill out. Let's go fly a kite. Send your worries soaring, like in the song of Mary Poppins, right? I will say though, it's been a long time since I've ever flown a kite, and I feel like usually when I have ever done it, like growing up, I feel nervous. Like I kind of tense up and feel nervous about like losing the kite, especially if there's like a strong wind and I don't feel like I'm in control. So I don't know, but then again, it's been a while. Yeah, so that is Priya's lore. I'm going to go ahead and kind of finish this video out by playing a fun little bot match here. I think it'd be fun to... here, I'm just going to sort of set things up here. So I'm going to play as Priya, and the bot... I'm going to turn it to hard. The bot is going to play... Well, you'll see. You probably already heard. The bot is going to play Dusk because Priya and Dusk, canonically, we know that they have fought. So, anyway, now that I have everything set up, I'll just do small Brawlhaven. Here we go. By the way, I think all of Priya's skins, the launch skins are fantastic. The Jester one, the Moon one, and the Joyful Dance, they're fabulous. And even the default skin is fantastic as well. Ugh. Gosh, this Chakram is so fun. Don't expect me to have like great combos. You can look to Swerved or Flipside or others for that. But I gotta say that I especially love the Chakram End Sig, because even if you don't hit, if you haven't noticed. So Priya basically kind of like ties the chakram to her scarf, to a piece of fabric, and as the chakram spins around, she gets it draws the scarf in, pulling Priya closer to the chakram, and then that allows her to kick her opponent away. And I think that's just really cool. Like the signature designs are very. The developers do a very good job designing signature designs. Like kind of figuring out those kind of concepts. Also, a lot of these, like this sword side sig here, like, I don't know if that's like beads or something, but, or I don't know, some kind of confetti or something, but it looks really pretty and flashy. Yeah, this right here, I think that's a really cool concept. It shows that. And also this one where she, this down sig, where she's extending the range of her chakram by tying it to a scarf again. I know that most players and content creators focus on like the mechanics of a new weapon or signatures for a new legend and stuff. What I usually focus on is basically like the design of moves and like how things look and are designed. And sometimes you get little extra bits of lore from signatures as well, whether it be more insight into a character's fighting style, or also with Mordex. Mordex's signatures are generally ice-based, right? And you don't really hear very much about Mordex having ice powers in his lore, but clearly he does have ice powers, and that's probably because of some Tome of Rituals or something else that he stole from some other monster or whatever. But that's kind of its own thing. I've played this match before, and I won, but this is not looking very good for me. This is a hard bot after all, and I certainly never pretend to be good at the game. I am perhaps what you might call painfully average. Okay, there we go. If you didn't know already, yes, the Chakram Sigs are exactly the same no matter which mode, fused or split, that you're using. Oof. Okay, there we go. All right, so it looks like Dusk won this time. But hey, there you go. That is what I have to say about Priya. So thank you very much for watching. What are your thoughts about? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention I had a theory that I wanted to mention about the Sky Serpent Battalion. So let me put on my theorizing hat here real quick, and let me just go back to the lore. Sorry, it'll just take just a moment here for me to explain my little theory. Okay, so again, theorizing hat. So this is not. I'm not talking about canon here. I'm talking about a theory that I have. All right. So Sky Serpent Battalion, and there's also mention of of gloom raiders wielding stolen instruments of the gods, like setting the village of the Millennium Lotus in Sonali ablaze. So it could be anything. It could just there are a lot. The world of the universe of Brawlhalla is vast, and there could be all kinds of various conflicts and everything. But it is also true that many things are connected as well. Like you hear about the Myers Baby Food Corporation in several Legends lore. You hear about the Order of the Exalted Lion, and so on and so forth. And another thing that often comes up a bit more often as well is Terminus and Darkheart. So we've learned from Petra's and Loki's lore that Loki is essentially experimenting with Darkheart, and the Battle Pass Season 8 website that focuses on Terminus and Darkheart shows that Loki has this sort of plot to try to stop Ragnarok from happening. And he meddles with alternate dimensions, alternate timelines, hoping that in at least one timeline he will be successful. That's why we get things like the Darkheart monsters messing up Red Raptor's home planet and things like that, right? Darkheart experiments and all that. So the fact that it's talking about Gloom Raiders, it kind of reminds me of Gloom and the gloom and malice that we see in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And I can imagine that Darkheart the way that it acts, like this volatile, like stone, like rocky substance that gives strange power, could be seen as like gloom energy, perhaps. Stolen instruments of the gods could refer to Hindu gods, could refer to any other kinds of gods, could refer to Loki for all we know. But what really gets me thinking is the Sky Serpent Battalion thing. Again, maybe the Sky Serpent Battalion is just that army of 500 later on, which might be different from the Gloom Raiders. Maybe they're the same thing. But my theory is, I guess it's a bit long-winded, sorry. My theory is that the Gloom Raiders and the Sky Serpent Battalion are related to Loki and Terminus. Sky Serpent could be a reference to Jormungandr, or Loki, who is the most... Loki has a lot of snake motifs on his person. Where is Loki? Here he is. He very much has a lot of snake motifs on his design and his weapons and everything like that, right? So... Maybe Priya's home was also affected by Loki's meddling with Darkheart armies. Sky Serpent Battalion could be like a reference to Loki meddling in something. Gloom Raiders, all that kind of stuff. So honestly, who knows? But that's my theory. That is my Brawlhalla theory here. Maybe there's something about the Millennium Lotus or the power that they had, and Loki wanted to try to take some of that for himself, and was foiled because of Priya and others. So we'll see. Anyway, now that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your thoughts and your theories are about Priya and her lore and her design and everything. Another wonderful addition to the Brawlhalla roster, and I look forward to playing with Priya and with Chakram more. So until next time, all the best.